Star Wars was my first geek moment. The story, the characters, the toys, everything about it opened up my imagination and introduced me to worlds I wish were real. Star Wars sparked my love for movies in general. I remember receiving my Millenium Falcon and a handful of figures for Christmas as if it was just yesterday. My parents did not know it then, but they created a monster. Today, I'm an avid collector of Star Wars toys and the proud owner of a complete set of original Kenner figures. Every time I look at them, I'm reminded of the excitement I felt when I first watched the Falcon being chased by TIE fighters, or when Obi-Wan faced Darth Vader. When they announced they were making more Star Wars films, I was both excited and nervous. The prequels did not spark the fire in me as I was hoping they would, and anyone watching them in order would not be hit with the sledgehammer of a twist when Luke finds out who his father was. They were simply not my Star Wars. However, when The Force Awakens was released, I felt like a kid again. Yes, it had its flaws, and yes, they rehashed old themes, but for me the tone and feel of the film was spot on, and introduced the universe to the world again. It left me excited to see the next chapter. Then came Rogue One. For me, Rogue One is the best Star Wars film since The Empire Strikes Back. I absolutely loved it. Gareth Edwards did an amazing job and nailed the style and tone while adding something new. It was the prequel that added and extended the original trilogy rather than dilute it. These two films raised the bar in my expectations of The Last Jedi, and I think that is where the problem lies for a lot of fans, even for me. I had to see the film twice before writing this review. First time I saw the film, I did not leave feeling like a kid. I left the theatre trying to convince myself I liked it. Parts of it I loved, some parts of it I loathed, so I wanted a second viewing to be able to take more of it in and be sure of my convictions. I'm glad I did. Upon a second viewing, I found myself enjoying it a lot more. The battle at the beginning was amazing, and we get to see how good a pilot Poe really is. The part where he handbrake turned the X-Wing made me grin from ear to ear. Some of my fellow Zillas hated the scene with the bombers and did not see the point of them. Who would send something that slow and vulnerable when the fighters could blow them out of the sky, which they did? It was a suicide mission from the start. The point was they were not meant to. It was a diversion. It was Poe who disobeyed orders and then caused that loss of life and the bombers on that mission. It was also to highlight that Poe was a hothead and not really ready to lead the resistance, which is what the film was building up for him to do in the next instalment. We then cut to Rey, Daisy Ridley and Luke, once again played by Mark Hamill. Luke now lives like a hermit on an all but deserted island with only the Pogs and the caretakers of the original Jedi temple for company. Luke is not happy to see her, and what he does with his old lightsaber made me laugh out loud. After some persuasion, Luke agrees to train her, only to see why the Jedi need to die. This is where some fans also take umbrage to how Luke was portrayed and how Rey learned so quickly. Do people not remember Empire? Luke went off to protect his friends and fight the mighty Darth Vader, after using the Force to float some rocks and somersault while having Yoda on his back. His training was not much different. Then there's Luke himself. Luke would not do that, some have said. Obi-Wan and Yoda both decided to hide. Luke had just seen his nephew turn to the dark side, but ultimately he is hiding out of shame. Shame of what he nearly did to Han and Leia's son. He ultimately let Kylo down and gave him only one option. Snoke stoked the fire, but it was Luke that created Kylo Ren. We also get to see something that was not done in Star Wars before, and that is when Rey and Kylo Ren, played by Adam Driver, communicating with each other over the Force link. It becomes such a powerful connection that they can even touch and interact with their other surroundings. I love this, and it showed how powerful these two really are, more so than any other Jedi before them. I see this as a bit like the film Highlander, and The Last Jedi sort of alluded to this. Well, there is dark, there is light, there is balance. And because there are not so many Jedi left, the ones who are more powerful. That is how I see it anyway. Then the film brings us to one of the scenes I hated the most. Leia becomes Mary Poppins. Okay, let me be clear here. Leia has Force powers, and we have still no idea how powerful she has become since Return of the Jedi. That I get. For all we know, she could have become more powerful than Luke. I just felt it was not executed that well. I would rather have had Leia use her powers to tell someone she was alive, and they went to rescue her. just like Luke did hanging off of Cloud City in Empire. So, Leia survived and they hyperspaced the hell out of there, only to be followed quickly by the First Order, who can now track ships through hyperspace. This leaves the Resistance low on fuel, with the enemy hot on their heels, waiting patiently for the inevitable to happen. This annoyed some fans, but it did not bother me. It actually reminded me of a lot of the first Battlestar Galactica episode from the reimagined series titled 33. In this episode, the Cylons would attack every 33 minutes, not giving the humans time to rest. In The Last Jedi, the First Order knew the Resistance were all but finished, so bided their time. Finn and Rose, however, came up with a plan to board General Huxley's ship and disable the tracker, so they could jump out without being tracked, but they needed a codebreaker, and headed off to the casino planet Canto Bight. The whole codebreaker and Canto Bight sequence does annoy me in some way. It was great that it showed a different side of the Star Wars universe that we have not seen before. Like in real life, the people that make money are the true winners from the age-old battle from the galaxy far, far away. However, the style and tone of the sequence, and even down to the animals that would not be out of place in my daughter's Pokemon collection, did not fit in for me. To me, that sequence was shoehorned in just to get Captain Phasma in the film to face off Finn. Again, Phasma was far underutilised. During all this, Poe is not happy how the Resistance is being run by Vice Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern, while Leia stays in a coma. He wants to fight and give Finn the time he needs. Unknown to Poe, however, Lee and Holdo have a plan. During all this, Rey leaves Luke to save Kylo from himself as she saw his future and the good that still resides in him. Luke decides it is time for the Jedi and their teachings to die and heads towards the sacred tree where the first Jedi text resides, with only one thought in his mind: to burn it down. This is when my heart sang again. An old friend appears to Luke and gives him one final lesson. It made Luke realise that his failure was also part of his training and something that he had passed on in his teachings. Meanwhile, Rey boards Snoke's ship to confront him as she believes she can save Kylo. This sequence was great, and although I was a little disappointed in how they handled Snoke, it was necessary for Kylo's development, which ultimately led to Rey not being able to save him. The lightsaber battle here, however, was handled brilliantly. While this is happening, the Resistance flee to a nearby planet which contains an old rebel base, which was part of the plan to begin with, and gives us one of the best sequences in any Star Wars films. To buy the Resistance time, Holdo sacrifices herself by destroying pretty much the entire First Order fleet. How this is played out is truly stunning, and now knowing what happened to Carrie Fisher, I wish she was the one who sacrificed herself. That would have been a much more fitting end, as I still don't know how they will explain her absence in the next film, since they said they're not going to use CGI to resurrect her. We're then treated to a spectacular sequence on the salt planet Crate. What remains of the Resistance is holed up in an old rebel base, while the might of the First Order descends upon them. The new guerrilla walkers are fantastic, walking side by side with the AT-ATs we know and love, truly shows off their scale. All looks lost when the inevitable happens. Luke turns up to face Kylo and the First Order. When Luke steps out to confront all of those walkers, I sat up in my chair with excitement. The whole sequence is handled perfectly from start to finish. And watching it a second time, I saw the small tells that you may not have spotted the first time as to Luke's true nature. Mark Hamill's sequence with Carrie Fisher was beautiful, and it was even more powerful in the knowledge that we'll never see these two on screen together again. When Luke and Kyle finally face each other, it was joyous. Luke was ready to give his old Padawan one final lesson, and Hamill played it brilliantly. At the end of The Last Jedi, the Resistance is broken. They are hurting, but there is hope. Like many, I also had my own convictions of what was going to happen in this movie, and in some way the fact that it did not was a good thing. It surprised me, and is that not what we want from a film? To be treated to something new? Does this film have its flaws? Yes. Does it have truly outstanding sequences? Yes. Does it show me something new and not a carbon copy of a previous episode? Yes. Is it as good as Rogue One? No. Is it as good as Force Awakens? I have not decided yet. It's still miles better than the prequels. I can live with the awful parts in it, as it ticks so many boxes that now, having written this review, the kid inside me wants to see again.